Hello, kind people. This is Dmitry, and this is my weekly listener recap. You might have noticed that I skipped last week. Last week was a numerical, and I was not a great fan of it. So, yeah, sorry, Arden. It was a good puzzle, just not a fan of numericals. This week I'm recording it during my lunch break, so I don't have my microphone. Apologies for the sound quality, but this is not going to be a long one. So this is the listener by KevGar, and it's called Fives. I don't think I remember many listeners by KevGar, but I did like a brief look at whether I solved any of them, and in fact, maybe I should just have another look right now and double check. But I think there was one. There was one about currencies, and then there was one called compressor, which in fact was about composers. So let's see what this one is about. It's called Fives, and let's read the preamble. The grid looks almost conventional, that there is a barred cell in the center. And let's read the preamble. Clues are given in groups of 5. Each group consists of, in no particular order, 3 normal clues, the answer to one of which must be entered jumbled, one with the letter misprinted in the definition, and one with the letter omitted from the definition. The correct and omitted letters, in clue order, indicate what solvers must highlight in the grid. 5 cells must contain 3 letters, one is the central cell, and the other 4 are in unjumbled answers to normal clues. Numbers in brackets are the length of grid entries. So, as listener preambles go, this is a reasonably accessible one. Very kindly, they delineated this groups of 5, so we don't have to do this as we had to do before. This was done for us. And I guess what I'll do is I'll show you sort of where I was when the PDM happened, when I realized what this was all about. And by the time I got to that stage, I had a good idea of what it was all about, and it was hard not to get this idea. And it turned out this idea was completely wrong and just a massive red herring. So if you look through the clues, you realize that some of them are long and longer than needed, and a lot of them have things in italic: have a mystery to solve, treasure island, on a secret trail, get into trouble, go down to the sea. And if you are familiar, as any British kid is, with Enid Blyton books, you might recognize that these are the titles from the famous 5 series. And even though I grew up in another country, they were translated into Russian in my childhood, and I think I had them as a part of this sort of series that was published in the early 90s in Russia called sort of kids' detective stories, like some sort of detectives collection for kids, which had other stuff apart from Enid Blyton, but quite a lot of it was from Famous Fives series. And so 5 go on a treasure island, 5 go down to the sea, 5 get into trouble, and so on. So that is a massive suggestion that we would eventually need to, highlight the famous 5 in the grid. And by the time I got here, I could have noticed, but luckily I didn't, that, some of them started to appear in the grid, like Anne and Dick, and later on we'll see that it is possible indeed to get all 5 of them with a proper, the proper filling of the central cell. However, it turns out that was a red herring, and it has nothing to do with Famous 5. So by this time, I will show you some of the clues, but by this time I got to so I think I should show how the message appears. So let's have a look at the first 5 clues. So Queen covers words. So this is this very first one across. Annelids is the answer. An is queen, lids are covers, and annelids are a type of worms rather than words. So this is one of those where you have a misprint in the definition, and so it is entered normally. You know that, because the only one which is entered jumbled is one of the 3 normal clues. So 13, make, most, smell, earth, and quart. So here is the one with inserted letter, so make moist is the definition, smell is hum, earth is E, quart is CT, those are reasonably common abbreviations, and so this word, which I'm not even sure how to pronounce, humect, is to make moist, and again, like it is entered normally. So let's have a look at the jumbled one. 10, skip school, turning shy. So this is gambol, which I think means skip, and the school, as in the collection of, say, aquatic mammals, is a gam, and to shy is to lob, and so you turn it and you get gambol, but it is entered jumble, so we end up with this non-word globam there, and so on. So by the time I arrived here, I noticed there was one cell, so I had some idea where one of those cells with 3 letters in it was. And this was in this marginal contribution to drab orderliness, so which contribution to is an indication for hidden, and inside this you get borderline. And borderline is marginal, so this is the normal clue, but borderline is longer than 8 letters. It's 10 letters, and so 3 of those have to be squished in a single cell. And I think at the time I had an idea that revet as revet. Again, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, and I can't even remember what the definition there is. Let's have a look. I think, it's face, right. And the definition is face. It's the composite anagram. You have to have this, or maybe this, without the anagram of Amy A. Shai. And so, anyway, so I had some idea that this is likely to be the normally entered one, possibly because I noticed. So why is that? Maybe I knew which one was incorrect. It was because this ended up being, well, anyway, I had an idea that this is possible as a normal one. And then, if it is indeed true, then borderline has to go this way. And yeah, and even if it is jumbled, like V and T are not even in borderline. So the only thing which can go here is E. And so borderline has to be entered normally, we know that. And so that means one of those 3 cells has to be contain 3 letters. And then I looked at another one, and the other one was here. I couldn't make this work with just 5-letter words, and then I entertained the possibility of this cell being another of those ones with 3 letters. And I realized that then it would work, because writers is the definition for this 16, and scribal is writers, and lambeo is a type of festival, so lamb is to attack, and beo is a group of turtles, apparently. And then I spotted that, because I was thinking that this 3-letter cells, they have to be thematic for the end game, and I realized that here I can get Balakirev. And about this time, I was thinking about my message, and what I got here was MI something HTI, and so the word mighty was on my mind. And I didn't immediately connect these things, but as soon as I spotted Balakirev, I realized that this is not about famous 5, this is about mighty 5. In Russian, we call them Maguche. Kuchka, Maguche literally means mighty. and Kuchka means bunch, mighty bunch, we call those 5 composers. And so, yeah, indeed, this was 5 composers. So, and then I realized that if I put bor of borderline here, I would get Borodin. So Borodin being another one. So Borodin, Balakirev, so Cesar QE is another one, Mussorgsky and Rimsky-Korsakov. And so I spotted this rim here and I realized that this is this R. And so I thought this could be Rimsky-Korsakov. Then I went to Chambers and realized Korsakov is not there, so I had no clue what this was. So then I looked at this. I actually haven't parsed this clue. I just realized that there is a town in Russia, in Sakhalin, I think, called Korsakov, and so that probably is right. 250 or 500 out of spirits backing. Oh, I guess so. There is vodkas here, and you get 500 out of that, and then 250 is probably K in some medieval Roman numerals or something, and then or is just this or. I think this is my first attempt to parse it. I hope it's correct, but no guarantees there. But Korsakov is definitely a town in Russia, and it turns out this whole grid is. I mean, there are other Russian references here. For example, this 38 company that could have mounted road weight with the other side of velocity. So that turns out to be Kirov, which is the old name of Mariinsky ballet from St. Petersburg. So Kirov ballet and kilo here is kilo, which is weight with other side, so R instead of L, right instead of left, and then V for velocity, and you get Kirov, and so that disambiguates some of those letters in this 34 down, which is entered jumbled. So anyway, this is what you have to do, and once you do all of that, you get a grid which looks like this. So we get Borodin, Balakirev, Mussorgsky, Rimsky-Korsakov, and we have to fill the whole central cell with QE, because otherwise QE is not in the grid. And you should realize that indeed, like the famous 5, and the whole message, by the way, spells mighty more than famous. So that's what we have to highlight. And the famous 5 indeed is here as well. So there is Anna, Dick, George. Who else was there? Anna, Dick, George. Oh no, I forgot their names. The dog was Timmy, so here instead of QE you put MMY, you get Timmy, like that. Okay, let me have a quick. How could I forget famous 5? How could I forget famous 5? Julian, oh yeah, of course. Yeah, and Julian is here as well. So I think it's, nice misdirection. Probably solvers who kind of started finding famous 5 in the grid and kind of were invested in this idea that that is the real theme, they would probably enjoy it more. I mean, I somehow from the very beginning thought it's unlikely to be entirely about famous 5 because it was just so explicitly telegraphed that, yeah, I kind of guessed it was a red herring, but I had no idea that it was going to be about Moguchaya Kuchka, and yeah, I approve of both themes, so I'm off to have some lashings of ginger beer, and I'll be back next week. Bye.